Welcome to Stream, all about streaming media through the library at Evergreen State College. My name is Zill. I'm the Electronic Resources Librarian here at Evergreen. And so what that means is I look after all of the online content that the library subscribes to, including streaming media, databases, ebooks, online journals, and other things like that. So the agenda for this presentation, I'm going to show you how to both search and browse for streaming media through the library catalog and through the platforms themselves. I'll also offer some platform spotlights, some cool films that we have available to stream right now. And then I'll go over some special topics pertaining to streaming media. This includes licensing, screenings, public performance rights. I'll touch a little bit about accessibility as well throughout this presentation. So let's start with searching. The very best place to start when searching for anything the library subscribes to is the library catalog. This will enable you to search across all of our platforms instead of just one. You might be tempted to, use Kanopy or something like that because you're used to it, but searching in the library catalog will make sure that you're searching the entire collection that we have available. So the library catalog is at evergreen.edu/library, and I'm going to plug in a search term. If you're searching for a movie that is one word or even one letter, I'm going to be searching for M by Fritz Lang. It's a good idea to include the filmmaker's name or an actor in the film just to make sure that you get the result that you're looking for. So I typed in M Fritz Lang and I'm going to click search. That'll take you into the library catalog and it'll come up with all sorts of search results, not just streaming media, but I do see that the film is listed at the second result there, and it says multiple versions. This is a way that our catalog kind of packages together multiple versions or formats of the same thing. So this would be a package of VHSs, DVDs, and streaming media of this film. So once I click on that, it'll pull up a Blu-ray, an e-video, a DVD video, and all sorts of other options for me. So if I'm looking for streaming media, I want to look for full text available, that second result there. Anything that says check for available services, that's something we don't have in our library, but could be requested from another library. Scrolling down a bit more, there's our DVD version, and it says available at and lists the call number. So that means that it's a physical item available on our shelves. So I'm going to click that second result for an e-video where it says full text available. And that'll open up the catalog record and give you a lot more information about the film so you can make sure that it is the film that you're looking for. It'll also prompt you to sign in all of these yellow bars. It's always a good idea to sign into the catalog when you're prompted to do so. And under View Online, right here, kind of in the middle of the record, that's where the hyperlink is to the film. And let me zoom in a little bit so you can see that it says full text availability. Kanopy is the hyperlink. So that's the name of one of our platforms. And then it's good to note the expiration date underneath there. It says expires March 23rd, 2023. Not all of our films expire, but films that we purchase through Kanopy, Swank, and sometimes Docuseek do have a set expiration date. So it's always a good idea to check to see if those notes are there. If you don't see a note with an expiration date, that means that the film does not have a set expiration date. And that doesn't mean that it can't be removed or that we will have it forever. Sometimes filmmakers will end their license agreement with, let's say, a platform like Alexander Street Press, which I'll talk about later. And so they'll remove that film from their collection. There's no set expiration date. They just decided not to renew their agreement with the database. So definitely check back to make sure something is available. If it's something that's required for your class, you can always reach out to the library and double check as well. But this one does have an expiration date. So I'm going to exit out of this record and show you that you can search just for a subject as well. I'm going to search for horror because it is close to Halloween now. And again, you'll see lots of different results pop up. That's searching across the title, the subject, maybe even an author name if someone has the last name horror. So you really want to narrow your search scope to just streaming media. There's two ways that you can do that. One way is clicking advanced search to the right of the search box, going down to material type, that's the first drop down on the right, and selecting streaming video. You're going to have to click search again to apply that filter, but then you'll only see e-videos or streaming videos pop up in your search. Another way to limit your search is on the left-hand side, tweak my results. There's all kinds of ways you can sort by only full text online resources. You can sort by subject. Resource type is where you would limit it to e-video, which will only show streaming videos. And this is really helpful if you have an all online course. Although if you do have a hybrid course, I suggest not filtering your search, because then you'll be able to see if we have something on DVD as opposed to streaming media, and that may suit your needs just as well. Okay, going back to my slides, I'll point out that another tip for searching the catalog is that this is a good way to find audio described films. You would search the phrase with audio description, those 3 words, in quotation marks. Those quotation marks puts those 3 words together, or keeps those 3 words together. So there's not searching for just with and just description separately. It's searching for that phrase. All of our audio described films will have this phrase tacked on to the end of the title in the results list. So if you search with audio description in quotation marks, you'll be able to browse through all of our audio described films. Speaking of browsing, you may not find the catalog the best place to browse. So I'm going to kind of introduce you to all of the platforms and show you how you can browse within each one. So to view the full list of our streaming media platforms, you'll go to the library homepage, library or evergreen.edu/library. And underneath the catalog search box, that third link there is research databases. Once you click that, you'll be taken to this page, which is a list of all of our databases. There are 124 databases listed here. It can be a bit overwhelming, but it's okay because you can filter this list by exactly what you're looking for, by subject or by content, which that second drop down is filter by content. Scroll all the way down to streaming media, and that'll pull up 8 databases. We have 6 streaming media platforms that we subscribe to, and 1 free wildlife sounds databases that we have listed here. So let me go through these and kind of talk about what each streaming media platform will be able to offer you. So the first one listed is Alexander Street Press. Alexander Street Press is probably our biggest stream media platform. It has videos and films across a wide array of subjects. It's really a catch-all database for streaming films, and a really good place to start if you're just wanting to know what we have on a certain topic. Alexander Street has channels on several different topics of interest and subject areas. They have a really good tutorial videos, exercise videos, or even foreign language learning materials. It's a really all-encompassing database. Docuseek is the second one listed. As you could infer from the title of this database, it focuses on documentary films. Docuseek is different than Alexander Street Press because we purchase these the films available on Docuseek title by title, as opposed to a subscription collection. But we do have a new collection on Docuseek called the Global Environmental Justice Documentaries, which is listed separately on this page because it is kind of a separate thing just on the same platform. So the Global Environmental Justice Documentaries is a curated collection of, I think, 37 or 38 documentary films that are based on environmental justice in the US, in Europe, in Asia, and India. So some really great films in that collection. So Docuseek and Global Environmental Justice Collection, when you go to these links, there'll be a smaller collection than Alexander Street because they pertain to a specific subset of films. The next one on this list is Films on Demand. Films on Demand is a lot like Alexander Street Press. It's a good catch-all database. It has a lot of different films and videos across a wide array of subject areas, and it is also a good place to start. They also have channels based on certain subjects. The only thing that differs Films on Demand from Alexander Street Press is their providers. So they have different deals with different filmmakers and channels. And things like that. Another thing is Alexander Street is the only platform that we have with audio described films. All of these databases have closed captioning. Alexander Street and Films on Demand have full transcripts as well to all of their films. You can speed up and slow down films. Some really great accessibility features. Docuseek has closed captioning, but not full transcripts. But they do have some study guides associated with the global environmental justice documentary films. So moving down, we're at Kanopy now. So Kanopy, very similar to Docuseek, we purchase these films title by title. So they're films that were individually requested by faculty or students, and we add to our collection. So our Kanopy collection is pretty small, but it is a good place to find public performance rights films, which I'll show you later on in this presentation. Kanopy has a lot of cult classic films, a lot of foreign films, lots of stuff from the Criterion channel, things like that. We have the Macaulay Library listed, which is from the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. This is a free website that has wildlife sounds and videos. So if you're looking for that, go there. It's not something that we subscribe to, so we don't have control of the site. But you're welcome to visit it. It's a really great resource. Next is Movie Discovery. This is a database that we have for 3 years, thanks to a grant secured by Nancy Koppelman. And the reason we added it to our collection is because it has a lot of films from the Ma'ale Film School in Jerusalem. So a lot of Jewish studies content on Movie Discovery, but they have other things too, science, art, environmental justice, things like that. I think there's about 500 films on the database. So a smaller collection, but definitely bigger than our title by title collections like Kanopy or Docuseek. And then last but not least is Swank. Swank is the go-to for popular or new feature films that you need for class. It's a database that we also purchase title by title, and the films available on that database do expire after 1 year from the date that we purchased it. So it's a good platform to just see what's on there, but there's not much available other than a few feature films that are being taught in classes at Evergreen. Okay, so I'm going to go into a couple of these databases just to show you around and see and show you how you can browse on your own. So Alexander Street. The landing page looks like this, and it's a really great way to just go ahead and scroll through all of the content. So at the top, there's a list of providers. There's also some channel types listed. You can scroll through, and there's some major subjects like the American Civil War, and then there's some sub-subjects underneath that, like Abraham Lincoln. It has its own channel on Alexander Street. And so if you want, you can scroll through this list, but it is pretty lengthy. It is alphabetical, as you can see. So I'll show you what I like to do is use the search box at the top. So make sure you're searching across all channels. This will bring up example channels that are available on Alexander Street. So if you type in something like ecology, for instance, it will come up with an ecology channel among other channels that have that word in it. You can search for something like history, and it'll populate a few channels that are about history. If you want to just search for videos, though, and you have a title of the video, go to all videos and then type in the name of the video you're looking for, like RBG is one of the films in this collection, and that'll pop up. It'll also suggest some channels. There's not an RBG channel on Alexander Street, but it will if there's both videos and channels with that title or that word in it. If you click on the little person icon in the upper right-hand corner, you're able to sign in all of our platforms. It allows you to have kind of an individualized experience. You can add videos to your personal playlist. You can create clips and share them with your class, things like that. But I want to point out on Alexander Street, it has accessibility preferences listed, and it pulls up this menu that enables you to use keyboard shortcuts, and it provides you a list of the keyboard shortcuts that work best on this platform. Very nifty. So as I said earlier, Alexander Street is the database for audio described films. So if you want to type with audio description in quotation marks and hit enter, it'll pull up all of the films with audio description, because that is in all of the titles, as you can see here. Going back to the list, I want to point out Films on Demand as well, as this is a really good database to browse if you're looking for something in particular, a subject in particular. You'll see that it looks a little bit different, but it is very similar to navigate. There's this banner at the top, which kind of highlights some films that are either most recently added or pertain to a subject of interest happening now. It's Halloween is a collection that they started, and so there's lots of spooky films and videos that you can browse through. They don't have all of their collections or channels listed on this front page. It's just the most popular or the most current stuff that is listed on the home page. So in order to see all of the subjects, you'll want to go to the 3-line menu that's called a hamburger menu at the upper left-hand corner, and that will list some of the subjects. It'll also list popular categories like recently added, which is a really cool category to browse if you're interested in. And then they also have a list of producers that you can see as well if you're looking for, I wonder what they have by A&E or by HBO. You can visit that there. But I'm going to go to that first column, subjects, and click view all at the end of that list. That'll take you to this page, which is the easiest place to kind of browse and try to find what you're looking for. So if I do a Control F to search this web page, I can type in something like language and see if they have anything on foreign language materials or things like that listed in these subjects. So as you can see, it just kind of goes through and shows you where language is mentioned. There we go. There's a foreign language channel. So if you click on it, it'll pull up foreign language. It says entertainment. So these must be like featured films with foreign language in it. So this is really cool. You can also have a page link to all of these channels that you can share with your classmates or your students. So now that we know how to search and browse the platforms and the catalog for streaming films, I want to give some spotlights on some films that we have available through these platforms. So now streaming on Alexander Street is Flea, an adult animated film about a man named Eamon who reveals his hidden past of fleeing from Afghanistan to his soon-to-be wife. Very cool and kind of heartwarming film. The middle movie poster there is Sisters with Transistors, the remarkable untold story of electronic music's female pioneers. The last movie poster there is Who We Are, A Chronicle of Racism in America, which which interweaves lectures, personal anecdotes, interviews, and revelations. ACLU Deputy Legal Director Jeffrey Robinson draws a stark timeline of anti-Black racism in the United States. Now streaming on Films on Demand. The first one there is Pandemic Perspectives. The viewer is taken on a thought-provoking journey through a spectrum of core societal issues directly illuminated by COVID-19, like education, science, communication, politics, the environment, and moral and societal values. Exterminate All the Brutes is that middle poster there. This is one of our actually most played series on Films on Demand. It's a 4-part docu-series from HBO that tells the story of how European colonialism makes and masks history across continents. And then The Swamp is the last movie poster there. It's a 2020 American documentary film, also from HBO, about the fundraising and political culture on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. Now streaming on Kanopy, I tried to include some spooky movies in this list too, since it is spooky season. The first one is Parasite. Greed and class discrimination therein threaten the newly formed symbolic relationship between the wealthy Park family and the destitute Kim clan. Kind of a thriller. The second one, or middle one in there, the movie poster is Rafiki. Kenna and Ziki, two Nairobi women, fall in love when their fathers run against each other for seats in the county assembly. Push Out, which is the poster to the right, the criminalization of Black girls in schools, confronts the criminalization and miseducation of African American girls that has led to their alarming high school dropout rates and increase into the juvenile justice system. These 3 films here are now streaming on Docuseek, and remember, this is the platform that has global environmental justice documentaries collection. So the first one here is actually from that environmental justice collection, Final Straw, a deep and visually stunning survey of age-old ideas about food, ecological connectedness, and personal happiness. The middle movie poster there is Crutch. It's the story of dancer and performance artist Bill Shannon, who has made a career out of rejecting the world's assumptions about his own limitations. So he's a performance artist that uses crutches, as you can see from the poster, and kind of is gravity defying in his work. It's a really cool story. Shift Change, which is on the right there, the decline in U.S. manufacturing jobs and the economic downturn has stimulated interest in firms that are owned and managed by their employees. So it's all about employee-owned companies. Now streaming on Swank. So the first one here is Arrival. Linguistics professor Louise Banks leads an elite team of investigators when gigantic spaceships touch down in 12 locations around the world. So sci-fi kind of thriller there. The middle poster is Harriet, which is the story of heroic abolitionist Harriet Tubman. The movie poster to the right is Older Than America. A daughter's haunting visions reveal a priest's scheme to silence her mother before she exposes atrocities that occurred at a Native American boarding school. So definitely a thriller, but unfortunately kind of true to life as well. Now streaming on Movie Discovery, and remember, this is the platform with the Ma'ale Film School collection. The first one here is Drones, Robots, and Super Sperm, the Future of Farming. It touches on the agricultural industry as it changes as digital technology develops. From Man to Man is the poster in the middle. The tension and complexity of Jerusalem is portrayed through 7 passengers of the city's new train, each from a very different background. So it kind of goes through the diverse population in Jerusalem. And the last one on the right is A Clockwork Doll. It's all about Dalia Rabikovich, one of Israel's most beloved poets. And I want to mention that on Halloween night, that's Monday, October 31st, we will have a double feature presentation, a public screening in the Library Underground, which is the library basement. We're screening Suspiria from 1977, the original, at 3:30, and Hereditary from 2018 at 5:30 p.m. So join us for that. So if you're searching and browsing through our collections and you're not finding what you really need for your class or for your studies, you can submit a purchase request. That's the fourth link underneath the library catalog search box. And it will take you to this page, request a library purchase. Read through this information here that just reminds you to check the catalog first, and then click log in order to open up the form. And make sure to include any notes about particular formats that you need, or how you are going to use the film. If you need to use the film for a public screening, for instance, please note that in the form. Okay, let's talk about licensing. So during this presentation, I haven't really mentioned Hulu, Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, or HBO Max. I listed all of these other platforms on the right side, and that's because there's a difference between individual and institutional licensing. So the platforms that I talked about, Films on Demand, Alexander Street, Swank, Docuseek, Movie Discovery, and Kanopy, all have licensing that enables the entire institution to watch films from their collection. It's more expensive licensing, but it's based on the FTE of the school, so the number of students enrolled at the school. That's what our price is based on, and it's available for everyone to stream in the classroom or individually. Films or TV shows on Hulu, Netflix, HBO Max, for instance, if you subscribe to these film platforms, you're actually not able to screen them in class or to screen them publicly, because the license attached to those films and TV shows are for your personal individual use, at-home use. A lot of films on Hulu or Netflix or Prime Video even are exclusive to those platforms. So if it's a film or TV show that says a Hulu original or a Netflix exclusive, oftentimes those are things that the library is not able to purchase. It's not everything on these platforms, so it's always a good idea to check and make sure if we can get it, but just keep in mind that not everything on these platforms are available for institutions to purchase. I also want to mention there's a lot of free platforms out there: Vimeo, YouTube, Tubi TV, Crackle, PEN America, Internet Archive, the Open Video Project, and Khan Academy are listed here. These websites are free to use. You can view films and videos on them. There's just a couple of warnings that I will give you. One, some of these platforms like Tubi TV and Crackle have commercials on them, which usually is not a big deal, but sometimes the commercials are kind of abrasive to what you are trying to watch. So if you're watching something that's very emotional, very thought-provoking, and then you get an ad for, I don't know, Burger King, it might disrupt the film screening that you're trying to do, or the film viewing that you're trying to access. I'll also warn you that things on YouTube especially, but sometimes Vimeo, are uploaded illegally. So definitely double check who uploaded the film. Oftentimes I try to make sure that it's the name of the filmmaker or the name of the company, the distribution company that put out the film, to make sure that it is legally uploaded. And another thing I'll say, that all of these platforms, they're controlled by people outside of Evergreen. We don't have any control over films or videos being removed from the platforms, and oftentimes they are removed because of copyright violations. So just be wary of that. It's not bad idea to use films from these collections. You just maybe want a plan B as well. Okay, so let's talk about screenings a little bit. So I have a few tips for a good screening experience, and then I will talk a little bit about public performance rights. So for a good screening experience, ask for accessibility needs upfront. Accessibility remediation is a slow process. If one of your students needs an audio described film, sometimes that could take 3 months or more. If a student in your class needs closed captioning, a full transcript, things like that, it's really important to know these things up front before you assign a film for your class, before you add it to your syllabus. Make sure you know the accessibility features of those films and the accessibility needs of your students. Regardless of your students' accessibility needs, if you are screening a film in class, I highly recommend that you turn on closed captioning. Closed captioning allows for folks with different learning abilities to really understand what's happening in the film. And it's just a good idea to have closed captionings on. Second, offer asynchronous options for remote classes. Do not screen share over Zoom or Teams. This is really important. So a lot of faculty, especially during the time of mostly remote classes during the pandemic, they asked if they could screen share over Zoom or Teams. And I said, no, that's not a good idea. It's not a good idea for a lot of reasons. One, it could be seen as a copyright violation. Because you're not screening the film in a typical classroom. You may need public performance rights to actually screen it online synchronously for your class. If you're screen sharing over Zoom or Teams, it's also important to keep in mind that we all have different broadband and internet connections. So although the film will look perfectly fine for you, it will definitely be skipping for at least one of your attendees and will really not be a great viewing experience. Along the lines of copyright too, there's some of our platforms like Kanopy have protections on the film. So if you're screening a film from Kanopy, for instance, it'll look perfectly fine to you, but it'll be only a black box to all of your attendees. And that's because it has a specific copyright protection on the film that does not enable you to screen share it. Also, request films far in advance. Sometimes films are easy to get. We can just purchase it or add it to our collections, but not all the time, especially for indie films, newly released films, films from independent filmmakers or distributors are not easy to get. Sometimes I've seen some independently put out films take anywhere from 3 weeks to 3 months for us to obtain. So request films as far in advance as possible. Test the film and have a backup plan. It's always important to test the film when you assign it, when you add it to your syllabus, and the day before or the day of your film screening. And if it's not working properly, reach out to me. I can help you troubleshoot, but it's always a good idea to have a backup plan, maybe an alternate film or an alternate lesson for that day that you can supplement and then maybe screen the film later once it's working again. So you might be wondering, do I need public performance rights? This is a very common question I get. So public performance rights, or PPR, is not needed if you are privately screening in your home with family and friends. This is called a private screening. So if you invite some friends over to your house and watch a film that was assigned in your class, that does not require public performance rights. It's also completely legal to watch films in your home with your family or your roommates behind you. Of course, that's legal to do without public performance rights. You also do not need PPR if you're screening in class. Now, there's specific stipulations with this. It has to be part of the curriculum, and the class is only open to enrolled students, and the film screening is in a classroom that is not open to others. So it has to be assigned as required part of the curriculum, only enrolled students, and a classroom that is not open to others. So if you have all of these except your screening in a public space where the door is open, anyone can walk in, you would need public performance rights for that. You're also able to screen public domain works. And there are a lot of films in the public domain, and you're welcome to have public screenings of them. PPR is needed if you are screening to members of the public. So this includes people at Evergreen that are not enrolled in a class. So for instance, if you're having a club on campus screen a film together, that is a public performance and you will need public performance rights. If you're a department on campus and you want all of your staff to watch a film, you will need public performance rights for that as well. It's in a public setting. So the double feature that we're hosting in the library for Halloween is in a public building where members of the public can walk in and go down to the basement and view the film. And it's also open to members of the public. So we have public performance rights for both of those films. And if you are screening in a public setting, you should too. If you were advertising the event publicly, this is really important because this is where we get those takedown notices from filmmakers or from copyright offices. If you're advertising the event publicly, it needs public performance rights. Now, putting a film or the time of the screening for your class in a syllabus does not count as advertising the event publicly. Even if you are not charging admission. So this is something that a lot of folks ask me, well, what if I'm just not charging admission? That's fine, but you still need public performance rights if it's in a public setting, if you're screening to members of the public, or if you're advertising the event publicly. It does not matter if you are charging admission or not. So how do I find out if something has PPR? It's a little bit complicated sometimes, so the best thing to do is contact the library and let us know that you want to use a film and for a public screening and you need public performance rights, and we can help you figure it out. Sometimes it takes a long time to get public performance rights from filmmakers, and sometimes they do not allow it. Oftentimes it can be a pretty hefty fee too. Some popular films, like we wanted to screen Candyman for Halloween, for instance, was $450 for one day, one public performance. So keep that in mind when you're requesting. But another way to find public performance rights films is by searching Kanopy. It's probably the cheapest way to get access to public performance rights films. So if you go to the Kanopy database, this is what it looks like. The homepage is pretty similar to Netflix, and it has a banner of some featured films and new arrivals. And if you scroll down, these are all the films that we have in our personal Kanopy collection. It's not much, but you can also search for films that we don't have yet. So if you click the search, you can search for horror, for instance, and once you search, it'll pull up all the films associated with horror. And underneath these gray buttons, you'll see PPR as the last drop down, and you can click that and select PPR available. That will limit it to only films that have public performance rights available. So Suspiria is one of those films. I'm going to click on it, see more. And as you can see, we subscribe to this. This is the landing page, or we have this film in our collection. It's not necessarily a subscription. This is a landing page, and right underneath the film title, there's all these different icons. One of them is PPR. It's right after the year and the time of the film. It says PPR and CC. So it has closed captioning. It also has public performance rights. Going back to the list, I'm going to pull up something that we don't own, The Witch. So let me see, request access. So this is something we don't own. So it doesn't take you to a landing page. It takes you to a request form. So fill out this form and include in the note that you will be using this for a public screening, just so we can make sure that it does in fact have public performance rights for you. So how do I get help? So that's the end of my presentation, but I'll show you a few different ways that you can reach out to us and get some additional help or ask some additional questions. So first, there's an e-resources guide at libguides.evergreen.edu/electronic-resources. This guide has information about all kinds of electronic resources, including streaming media. That's the fourth tab there at the top. You can scroll down, see how you can find streaming media in the catalog, as well as those special topics. And on the right-hand side is me and my contact information. You're welcome to reach out to me directly by email or phone. Or you can email us at libraryhelp@evergreen.edu. Emailing library help is probably your best bet, because if I'm out sick or on vacation, my colleagues, my library colleagues, will follow up with you much quicker, although I always try to have an auto reply if I'm out of the office. Okay, and since it's Halloween, I have to have this final slide. Any questions? Okay, thank you all for attending.